life is so busy and it flies by so fast, where it's like, what are you going to teach me? What are you going to give to me that I can't get by watching a podcast or going online and doing a Google research or reading an article? What is it that you can do? And I always try to tell my clients, you have to be genuine. If you're not genuine and you're not who you are when you're in front of anybody, they're going to see it and feel it in a way that is like no other.
Hey, law firm owner, welcome to the Your Practice Mastered podcast. We're your hosts. I'm MPS.
And I'm Richard James. And Michael, today we have a special guest. It's somebody that we've known for a very long time now. We work very closely with on a weekly and daily basis, as well as somebody who makes us shine in our event world. We're with Sherrie, and Sherrie is the owner of the company that manages our events. And so this was one of our decisions many a moon ago to, rather than just hire inside of our company and try to figure out how to do things on our own, let's go hire the level of expert that knows how to do things. And so when we were having the podcast conversation, we just really thought about, hey, why not bring Sherrie on and talk about her entrepreneurial journey, but also maybe give some really quick tips and tricks for any attorneys who might be running any type of live or even virtual events. So Sherrie, thank you so much for agreeing to be on the show today, and I can't wait to have this conversation.
Thank you for having me, Rich and Michael. I'm very excited to be here.
We're excited to have you. And Sherrie, one of the things we like to do to kick things off is an icebreaker. So what's something that maybe not everyone knows about you?
You know, I was thinking about this question for so long, and I'm like, well, what don't people, because people know, who have known me for a while, know I'm now out here in Utah, enjoy the mountains, love the mountains. But for me, I enjoy nature. I enjoy being by myself. I enjoy going out for a bike ride or just sitting out and listening to the trees, as they call the quaking aspen moving in the breeze. It's calming to me, and it's also re-energizing at the same time.
Well, you're surrounded by so many people all the time when you're at these events. I suppose getting into some quiet without humans is a real win for you, yeah?
Yes, it is. It's an opportunity for me to, my husband always teases me and says, you're secretly an introvert. Yeah. And I'm like, yeah, probably, because it drains a lot of energy when I'm at events. I love being around everybody in the entrepreneurial world for sure, but it's great to be alone with quiet time.
Inside baseball, I'm secretly an introvert too. I get a tremendous amount of recharging from quiet.
Yes.
And not having, Maria can't understand why I don't want to talk in the morning. I talk all day long. I don't want to have anything to say in the morning. I can keep the conversation going at dinner or whatever, but in the morning, I just need quiet. I just joined the gym again, and I go there, and everybody's happy and excited, and they want to talk, and I'm like, I'm not saying anything. They're like, you okay? I'm like, yeah, it's not you. Can we exercise without saying any words? That would be great. We don't need to say any words.
Yeah. I've learned a trick to that, Rich. You put a hat on, a cap on, and then they can't make eye contact.
Yeah.
Sherrie, you really might be an introvert. Yeah.
It's a secret.
Yeah, never mind needing to recharge just from seeing all the people at the events, but wow, you're hustling and working at those events too. It's a nonstop gig, but you're also the thing and the person that keeps things moving along and holding the hotel or venue accountable. So it's a vital role to it. Why don't you talk a little bit about that? So your entrepreneurial journey, let's go through the high points. Where'd you start and how do we end up here?
Well, I started way back in the day. Gosh, it's probably been, I'll just say 2005, so I don't have to count in my head how long it's been, where I was the right-hand assistant to Bill Glazer, who was the guru in the industry for Glazer Kennedy Insider Circle. And he brought me on as sort of an entrepreneurial, apprentice, if you will. He's never had an assistant in his entire life. And he's like, I need somebody to help keep me going and keep me on track. The benefit of that was I was in on all of his meetings, his marketing meetings, when he met with his marketing team, like, okay, this is what we need to do to advertise, all of his newsletter meetings, things like that. So I really got to have hands-on learning. And anyone listening who is like, what do I do when I need to learn something? Be a fly on the wall wherever you can to learn, because that, I think, is the best key ingredient to learning what it takes to do anything, to run a business, to put on an event, to grow your business, or to market, or to introduce something new. And while we were doing all of that, he said, okay, look, now we have big events a year. We do 2 big events, Super Conference, Info Summit, lots of masterminds in between, boot camps. Have you done events? And I said, I've planned parties and board meetings, and that's about it. So he hired one of the best in the industry back then to come on, do events, and to train me. So they knew coming right in that they were to train me on all the ins and outs of how to negotiate, work with a hotel, and do everything on site that he didn't know the answers to. And that was a great way for me to learn, because I learned best hands-on instead of putting me in front of a screen and trying to teach me. Back then, entrepreneurial world to me was brand new. I worked in corporate industry and nonprofit, completely different industries and different worlds. And so it was a great way for me to learn. And so I took what that person taught me, as well as what Bill had taught me, of what it takes to make a great experience. And from there, just continued to learn. And in 2011 and 12, when Bill Glazer sold the company to investors, I didn't like what was happening to the company. I didn't like what the changes were making or the environment. And I was like, I need to do something. And so my husband came to me and said, you've been doing events planning for 8 years. You've got relationships. You've got the skills. What are you going to do? So we are a very strong Christian family, and we prayed about it quite a bit. And the doors opened, and I started SLS Event Planning in 2012. I had my last super conference in May of 2012 was my last shebang, where I actually got to spend money, because Bill was all about how do we keep the money. So I got to spend some money, and I went right out on my own from there. And it's been a wonderful journey and lots of learning every single time I'm out there.
Yeah, so what a great, so many lessons packed in that one journey. Let me go in and extract one out. But first, let me say how great of a job you do. You were taught very, very well. You obviously were a wonderful student. And we run, our events get very high marks. And it's got a lot to do with what you do for us. And so we appreciate you and thank you. If I haven't said that publicly before, I want to make sure that comes out of my mouth, because I appreciate you for sure. Yeah.
Thank you.
So let's dive into that real quick. Let's jump into the middle of that pile and try to extract one thing. And one thing that you said I thought was really important. You didn't say it this way, but I think Bill Glazer says it this way: success leaves clues, right? And
exactly.
so you said the fastest way for you to learn, the advice you gave was for somebody to participate and be a fly on the wall. And then you said, I learn best by doing and not being put in front of a screen and taught. And so I think that's a great parallel for the law firm owner who's struggling with their team member who just doesn't get it, because the law firm owner figures, well, I hired you and I went to law school and they told me to figure it out. And so I assume that you're just going to figure it out because you work at a law firm. But what you found works best was to be mentored and actually watch somebody do it. And so do you think, generally speaking, if owners of law firms would take that approach with their team members and sit down kneecap to kneecap or virtually, whatever it might be, and actually show them what to do and demonstrate how it should be done, rather than say, go watch this video and then go do it, and then just get frustrated at them? Do you think that's a better way to go about doing it?
I absolutely do think that. And I'll put this other note on the side for a moment. But yes, Rich, I agree with this absolutely, because it's a great way there's personalities involved, right? So how are you going to get to know your team member or assistant's personality if you don't take the time to be kneecap to kneecap? So you have to learn one another. That person is most likely, you're going to want them to quote unquote read your mind and know what you need them to know without them knowing that they need to know it. And what better way to do that is to be kneecap to kneecap. I also would say, have them come in and be a fly on the wall in your important meetings. Even if it has nothing to do with their role, it has everything to do with your business. And that's a great way, instead of putting it in front of a computer to watch a video recording, have them be in a live room with you to understand how you operate, to understand what the business is about and what's important to you. So yes, absolutely.
That's a great answer. Thank you for that.
It is. And
yeah.
to law firm owners, That's to, help your team set up for success. But for you, you should be doing the same thing, right? So you should try to find where you can get into a room
Right.
of other people or another person who's been there and who have done that. Rich, like you and I, whenever we look to join a mastermind program, I want to be the dumbest person in that room. I want people to be light years ahead of me, so that way I can learn from what they did. And they've been there, done that, and solved the complex challenges that we're already trying to do. So the same applies to you as law firm owners. You should be trying to do the same exact thing. So, Sherrie, one of the things you said is you got trained up on events. You started becoming masterful with events. You started the event planning. So from a tactical perspective for law firms that might want to put on some types of events, what's like the one secret or the key recipes to a good event? What should they look for?
Oh gosh, they should look for someone that is going to deliver them not just great content, but a great experience and a safe environment. It's all about a community and an experience, right? Because life is so busy and it flies by so fast, where it's like, what are you going to teach me? What are you going to give to me that I can't get by watching a podcast or going online and doing a Google research or reading an article? What is it that you can do? And I always try to tell my clients, you have to be genuine. If you're not genuine and you're not who you are when you're in front of anybody, they're going to see it and feel it in a way that is like no other. Like they're going to tell that you're just putting it on just to put it on. So I would say the tactical approach, Michael, is what is it as a law firm owner? Why are you doing it to begin with? Why do you want to put on a live event? What's the reason for you of doing it? Is you got to start off with that why, and you got to really take the time to write it out. It's kind of like, where do you want to be in 5 years? Okay, well, why do you want to take the time to put an event on? Because we all know it's a lot of time, a lot of money, and a lot of effort. So you're going to have obstacles. And then what do you want the outcome to be at the end of the day? So the why and the outcome have to match so that everything you're teaching throughout the event is going to be fluent and cohesive and make sense to the audience. So those are the two key factors. And then it also will help you determine who should be in the audience. Because if you know your why and you know the outcome, then you know who's supposed to be in those seats. Yeah. So if you don't know all of those three, it's just going to be, let's just throw it up on the wall and see if it sticks.
Yeah, that's so wise, Sherrie. It's obvious why you're good at what you are, at what you do, because if you don't understand what you want the outcome to be, you won't get to where you want to be. You'll be like a ship without a rudder. To the law firm owners listening, if you're thinking, well, what kind of event would I put on? The answer to that could be many things. So depending on your practice area, there are retail events that you can put on. That means those are events that you put on for your target audience, either live or virtual, where it's only you and you run them and you drive traffic from your relationships or paid traffic that you drive to that event, be it a webinar or maybe be it something in person at a local church or what have you. And then there are wholesale events. And then those events are events that you're going to do with another partner, a financial planner or an accountant or a real estate agent, where you're going to be the legal expert in a wholesale event. On their event, you're actually participating for them. You have a little bit less control over that because it's their event and you're the guest. And then finally, there's we call them the celebrity events. We believe in creating authorship, celebrity, and expert status. And you could have an event where you're celebrating yourself as an author, and you have a book signing event or a book launch event. And those are great events for you to lift your status in your community and invite your current, past clients, referral partners, potential referral partners to that event. And all of those require knowing clearly what it is that you want from them. But Sherrie, to plus one on that, how important is planning when it comes to putting these events on, regardless of the type of event they would have?
It's very important as far as the logistics of what is to be expected there, right? So what I mean by that, Rich, is you have to plan for the unexpected, because once you're there on site and the program is running, you're on front teaching, or you're working side by side with another partner, as you said, with someone else there speaking, things in the background are happening. Behind the scenes, there's things going on in it. And those are the things that you can pre-plan. You can work and partner with whoever or wherever the venue is going to be to make sure that the temperature of the room is decent and people aren't sweating or freezing. that the water stations and things are going to be filled at the right times. People weren't coming in while you're up front trying to talk and teach, and there's people coming in and interrupting you. The bathrooms are being cleaned on those particular breaks because you have 50 to 100 people coming through, or food or whatever. Those are the things logistically that you can pre-plan before you get to the event with whatever venue that you're working with, so that you don't have to worry about those things once you're on site, except for making the handshake when you get there and saying, hey, let's review this before we get started. Here's my agenda, here are my break times, this is what I'm expecting of you, and here's my point of contact, so that if something does come up, you deal with that person and not me, even though I signed the contract. And so that's one side of the logistics. The other is the experience of the attendees. You want to make sure that when they get there, first impression is everything. That's one of the biggest things that both you and NPS do very well is the white glove service. I want them to feel special, welcomed, like this is part of the family, that they are, they took the time out of their busy schedules to be here. How can I make them feel like we want them there and they're welcome there? And so figuring out the planning of that, what is it going to look like when that person comes up to register, to check in, whatever that experience is going to be, will they have all of the materials in front of them that they need to make it a great experience? And what do you want that to look like? And it could be different for anybody and everybody. It doesn't have to be the same thing. So the lawyers that are listening to this, if you've gone to an event and you see, oh, I really like what they did there, I want to take that and bring it to mine. Or no, or the opposite. I did not have a great experience. I want to make sure that doesn't happen. So those are all of the pre-planning things. So yes, it's both logistically with the venue where you're hosting, as well as logistics for the people that are going to be there to experience it.
Michael, we might have very well successfully scared any law firm owner from ever having an event again.
Yeah, I think that ship might have sailed right then. But nonetheless, it was valuable to learn how to do it, at least from a planning perspective. And one other thing on the planning perspective, Sherrie, obviously there's a lot of variability to this, size of the event, kind of location of the event, the whole nine. But how early in advance should someone start planning an event?
It all depends on the marketing, right? So whenever somebody asks me a question, I always turn it around with another question to ask them first, because you got to keep digging deeper to get to the real answer. And the real answer is, it depends, first of all, on your market, who you're marketing to, and the size of your market. And if tickets are involved, ticket sales, like with your events that you do with your Partners Club people, there's no ticket sales. They just know the dates and they know whether or not that they can make it. Whereas in other events, ticket sales are required to get, as they say, butts and seats. And so you need that time to do it. It also depends on the relationship that you have with your list. If you have a relationship that's ongoing with them, whether it's you're constantly sending them emails, newsletters, whether it's electronic or old direct mail pieces, if you are in constant communication with them and they're used to hearing from you on a consistent basis, then that can shorten your timeline. But if it's cold and this is your first one, you don't have a relationship of any kind with the people that you're marketing to, then you need to double your marketing timeline, because you're going to have to test it. You're going to have to try out this kind of form of marketing. Oh, well, that didn't work. Okay, well, and then you want to do just a small portion of your list so that you don't burn out your entire list at the very beginning. So that's what I would say to that, Michael, is it's never the same answer for everybody, because not everybody has the same relationship with their market.
Yeah, so it's interesting. This concept of time depends on the type of event you're going to do. Like if you're going to do a lunch and learn at the Olive Garden, you might be able to run Facebook ads this week and get 5 butts in a seat for an estate planning firm at an Olive Garden, and that would be a win. Right. But if you're going to run a book signing and try to have the mayor there, that's going to involve a much different, like we actually had a firm many years ago celebrate their 10th anniversary and had, the mayor and the governor and every politician, and they had a live mariachi band, and there was 500 people in present, and there was a celebration. It was an immigration firm, so they brought like photographers and people to bring their green cards, and they framed their pictures with the fact that they got, their green cards. I mean, it was just a huge celebration. I mean, it took a tremendous amount of planning. We had to give it enough time to get all these schedules coordinated and have speakers and the whole 9 yards, and it was like running an actual event. So those are two different extremes for that law firms can certainly do, and every law firm can do both of those, but it just depends. But on that scope of time, I am curious. I've been to events, and you've probably seen events that don't run on time. And as you well know, you said about being your genuine self. Well, I'm a person who likes to be on time, and we typically run on time. We're not perfect, but we typically run very close to the minute. How important do you think? Is that just me, my OCD, and my personality that likes to be on time, or do you think that's really important that we run on time events?
I think it's extremely important because it's part of the experience, right? Everybody is busy. So if the people attending your event can only be in the room for certain sessions and your sessions are running over, then they're going to have to step out and miss those important sessions, and then their experience is ruined. And if you're having other guest speakers come, their schedules are also busy. They may not be able to be there for you the entire time. So having the sessions run on time because of the speakers that are going to be there as well as the people in the room is super important. And nowadays, as you know, Rich and NPS, hybrid events are the thing, because of how COVID has changed the world. So you got people sitting there virtually and they're expecting the session to start at 9 and it's not starting. You've got dead air space. And what are you going to do with that? So all around, yes, experience, and it comes from running on time.
Yeah, MPS. You came into our world. You were raised in our house, so you know what timeliness is to us. But I assume you are on board with the fact that we run on time all the time. Yeah.
Yeah, I can't stand when stuff doesn't go according to time, and it really irritates me. So if I'm ever at an event where that's the case, I notice that. And we've even had members come up to us, right, that have attended just either different events here or there. And one of the most common things we hear is, yeah, the event was good, but nothing ran on time, right? Nothing ran on time. So it's noticeable because it's frustrating when it doesn't happen. It's kind of just another way of not following through on something you said because you wrote it out. You said this is the time, and then you're not following it. So that's my way of looking at it.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, I was this way when we had the funeral business. Funerals ran on time in my world, and the priests and the ministers were always like, "Man, you guys are always on time." I'm like, "Yep, because we're supposed to be on time." And they're like, "Well, no, the funeral director's on time." I'm like, "Well, I wish they'd advertise that in the newspaper somewhere because we're on time, right?" And so, I just always felt that was how it should be. And I always felt when I went to situations where people weren't on time, it just bugged me. So I think if you're going to run events, you've heard it now from the three of us, if you're going to run any type of event, be on time. Whether your event is a lunch and learn at the Olive Garden, start on time. If your event is at 11:45, start at 11:45. If somebody's late, they're late. That's on them, not on you. Right? If your event it's supposed to end at 1:00 and you start at 11:45, end at 1:00. Like, don't hold people over. That's true for live events like that. It's true for meetings. It's true for all sorts of things. You should a fundamental skill set of a successful business owner traditionally is that they run the ship on time, or somebody in the business is running the ship on time. I find that to be important. So if you're listening out there, that's a writer downer for you. Michael, where do you want to go from here with Sherrie?
Sherrie, what's got you fired up? What's got you excited? Could be business, could be personal, could be both.
I'm going to say both. I'm fired up because I get excited when I get the opportunity to talk with clients about what's next, right? So it's like, what's next? Events, I think, are a fantastic way for your business to be able to get in front of your avatar, the right clients. And just because things are running smoothly now doesn't mean we can't go to the next step and grow it. So I'm always excited about doing that with clients, is like, what's next? Because there's always opportunity to grow. There's always opportunity to learn. So I'm always super excited about that. On a personal note, super excited about being a landowner in our favorite part of the world in Utah. And hoping to be able to start building our dream home in about a year or two from now. So we're super excited about that. Fall's our favorite time of year. So right now, as we're recording that, this is my favorite time of year. So constantly being able to see those kind of colors every year for the rest of my life until we're called home is exciting to me.
Yeah, watching you move from Maryland to Tennessee and now Utah, there was a happiness factor from Maryland to Tennessee, but the happiness factor for you now in Utah is through the charts.
Yes.
And yeah, so we're so excited that you and your family get to experience your dream place to live and now what's going to be your dream home on your dream piece of land. And so I'm
Thank
excited
you.
for you as well. Hey, if anybody who is listening and they're curious about, learning more about running events or they wanted to reach out to you, what would be the best way for them to reach out to you?
I would say probably the best way would be by email. I mean, you could certainly go to both my website as well and type in a form of interest in there. But the best way is through email. Sherrie at slseventplanning.com is a great way to reach out to me. We can always schedule a discovery session call to figure out what's best for you. What's your next best step? Sometimes it's not, no, you're not ready, but here's what you need to do to get there.
That's great. Yeah, Sherrie, again, thanks for putting on great events for us. Appreciate this. Share MPS, this was a great show, giving some insight as to what's important about running events. And there's so much that goes into it. You and I and Sherrie, obviously, we have inside baseball on the fact that we do this every week. We have conversations about the event literally on a weekly basis in between the 13 weeks in between we put on these events. But MPS, I think this was very helpful, yeah?
It was very helpful. It was nice to get a different topic, different perspective on the show. So law firm owners listening, I hope you were able to pull the value out of this and pull nuggets even outside of events, like finding a mentor and just learning by sitting on fly on the wall type of mentality. And if that was you, first and foremost, thanks for taking the time to listen and watch. Make sure to hit that subscribe or follow button depending on your platform. Turn those bell notifications on and then show some love down in the comments for Sherrie. And if you've got any questions, throw them down there. Otherwise, Sherrie, thank you for taking the time to be on today. And law firm owners, thank you for investing your time here as well.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
That's the pod.